The rain fell in sheets across the windshield as Tom gripped the steering wheel tighter. Next to him, Lisa shifted uncomfortably in her seat, one hand resting on her swollen belly. They were driving back from dinner with friends, a rare night out before the baby arrived. Lisa had insisted they go, saying it might be their last chance for months. Tom had nodded and smiled, but his mind had been elsewhere all evening. "You're quiet," Lisa said, turning to look at her husband of 5 years. His face was half illuminated by the dashboard lights, jaw tense, eyes fixed on the road ahead. "Is everything okay?" Tom forced a smile. "Just tired," he said, though tiredness had nothing to do with the storm brewing inside him. Lightning flashed, briefly illuminating the country road they were taking as a shortcut home. They lived just outside a small town where everyone knew everyone else's business. Tom had always liked that about the place when they first moved there. Now that sense of community felt suffocating. Lisa winced suddenly, her hand pressing harder against her belly. "You all right?" Tom asked, glancing over. "I think so. Just Braxton Hicks again," she said, referring to the practice contractions she'd been having for weeks. The baby wasn't due for another 2 weeks. They drove in silence for a few more minutes, the windshield wipers fighting a losing battle against the downpour. Tom's phone buzzed in his pocket for the 3rd time that night. He ignored it, knowing who it was, the same person who had been calling him for days now. "Oh," Lisa gasped, lurching forward slightly. "What? What is it?" Tom asked, alarm creeping into his voice. I think my water just broke," Lisa said, her voice trembling with a mixture of excitement and fear. Tom's heart hammered against his ribs. This wasn't supposed to happen yet. He wasn't ready, not now, not with everything else going on. "Are you sure?" he asked, hoping she was mistaken. Lisa nodded, her face contorting with another contraction. "Yes, I'm sure. We need to go to the hospital." Tom's mind raced. The hospital was 30 minutes in the opposite direction. His phone buzzed again insistently. Time was running out in more ways than one. "Tom, did you hear me? We need to go to the hospital now," Lisa repeated, her voice stronger now, more urgent. Tom nodded mechanically and began to slow the car, but instead of making a U-turn toward the hospital, he pulled over to the side of the road. The rain drummed on the roof as he put the car in park and turned to look at his wife. "What are you doing?" Lisa asked, confusion clouding her face. "We can't stop here." Tom stared at her for a long moment. Lisa had never looked more beautiful to him than she did right now, her chestnut hair falling around her face, her cheeks flushed with the effort of early labor. They had met 6 years ago at a coffee shop. He had spilled his drink on her favorite book. Somehow that clumsy moment had led to dinner, which led to dating, which led to a small wedding by the lake where they had first said, "I love you." And now here they were, about to become parents. It should have been the happiest time of their lives. Another contraction seized Lisa, stronger this time. She grabbed Tom's hand and squeezed until it passed. "Tom, please," she said, her voice breaking. "What's going on? Why are we stopping?" Tom's phone buzzed again. He pulled it out and looked at the screen. A text message, "Time's running out. Last chance." "I need to tell you something," Tom said, his voice barely audible over the rain. "I've been keeping something from you." Lisa's eyes widened. What are you talking about?" "Can't this wait until after we get to the hospital?" Tom shook his head. "No, it can't wait. I've tried to find the right time, but there isn't one." Lisa stared at him, another contraction building. "Tom, you're scaring me." "I have to go," he said, the words feeling foreign in his mouth as if someone else was speaking them. "Go where?" "What are you talking about?" Lisa's voice rose, panic edging in. "I'm in labor." Tom reached across to the glove compartment and pulled out a small bag. He had packed it 3 days ago when the first call came, just in case. "I can't explain everything right now," he said, unable to meet her eyes. "But I have to leave. Right now." Lisa's face crumpled in disbelief. "Is this some kind of sick joke?" "I'm about to have our baby." I know," Tom said, running his hands through his hair. "And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Lisa. But there are things you don't know, things I never told you." Another contraction hit Lisa, stronger than before. She doubled over, groaning through clenched teeth. When it passed, she looked up at Tom with tears streaming down her face. "Whatever it is, we can figure it out together," she pleaded. "Please, just take me to the hospital first." Tom's phone buzzed again. A call this time. the same number that had been haunting him for days. "I can't," he whispered. "I have to go now or it'll be too late." In a daze, he opened his door and stepped out into the pouring rain. He was soaked instantly but barely noticed. Walking around to Lisa's side of the car, he opened her door. "What are you doing?" Lisa cried, her voice breaking. "You can't be serious." Tom reached across her and unbuckled her seatbelt. "There's a diner about half a mile up the road," he said, pointing into the darkness. "You can call for help from there." "A diner?" "Tom, I'm in labor." "I can't walk half a mile." Tom handed her his phone. "Then call 911, tell them where you are." Lisa stared at the phone in her hand, then back at Tom, shock and betrayal written across her face. "I don't understand," she whispered. "Why are you doing this?" The rain plastered Tom's clothes to his body as he stood there, water running down his face, mixing with the tears he couldn't hold back any longer. "I never wanted to hurt you," he said. "Please believe that. But there are things bigger than us happening right now. Lives depend on what I do next." "What things?" "What lives?" Lisa demanded, clutching her belly as another contraction began building. "Tom, please, this isn't you." Tom took a step back. The distance between them felt infinite already. "I'll explain everything when I can," he said. "I promise." "Don't do this," Lisa begged, reaching for him. "Whatever trouble you're in, we can face it together." "Please." For a moment, Tom wavered. The look on Lisa's face nearly broke him. Then his phone rang in Lisa's hand, the screen lighting up with that same number. The moment passed. "I'm sorry," he said one last time. Then he turned and walked back to the driver's side. "Tom!" Lisa screamed after him. "You can't leave me here." "I'm having your baby." Tom climbed back into the car, his hands shaking so badly he could barely grip the steering wheel. Lisa's cries pierced through the sound of the rain, slicing into him like physical pain. "Call 911, he said through the open passenger door, his voice hollow. "Someone will come for you. I have to go." Before Lisa could respond, before he could change his mind, Tom pulled the passenger door shut and put the car in drive. In the rearview mirror, he could see Lisa struggling to get out of the car, one hand on her belly, the other reaching toward him in desperate confusion. And then he was driving away, leaving his pregnant wife alone on a deserted road in the middle of a storm. 10 minutes later, Tom pulled over, his body shaking uncontrollably. He grabbed his phone from the bag beside him, his backup phone, the one Lisa didn't know about, and dialed 911. "There's a pregnant woman in labor on County Road 27, about 3 miles east of the highway junction," he said, his voice cracking. "She needs an ambulance right away." He hung up before the dispatcher could ask any questions. Then he made another call, to the number that had been haunting him for days. "I'm on my way," he said when someone answered. "But you should know what this cost me." "Just hurry," the voice on the other end replied. "There isn't much time left." Tom put the phone down and continued driving, the windshield wipers beating a rhythm that matched the words repeating in his head. "What have I done? What have I done?" Behind him, in the darkness and rain, Lisa huddled against the car, one hand clutching Tom's phone, the other pressed against her belly as contractions came faster now. She had managed to dial 911, her voice breaking as she tried to explain where she was and what was happening. "My husband left me," she told the dispatcher, the words sounding unreal even as she said them. "He just drove away. I'm having our baby and he just left me here." As headlights appeared in the distance, Lisa felt a fresh wave of pain wash over her. She didn't know if it was from the contractions or from the shattering of everything she thought she knew about her life, her marriage, and the man she had trusted with her heart. The approaching car slowed, then stopped. A stranger rushed toward her through the rain, concern etched on their face. "Are you okay?" the stranger called out. "Do you need help?" Lisa nodded, unable to speak through her tears and pain. As the stranger helped her toward their car, Lisa looked down the empty road where Tom had disappeared. What could possibly be important enough to abandon your wife and child? What secret was worth destroying everything they had built together? Whatever it was, it had better be worth it, because nothing would ever be the same again. 2 weeks before that rainy night, Tom had been a different man. He sat in the nursery they had prepared, running his hand over the crib rail, imagining the tiny person who would soon sleep there. The walls were a soft green. Lisa had insisted they not do the typical blue or pink. "Let's not put our kid in a color box before they're even born," she had said with that smile that still made his heart skip after all these years. Tom heard Lisa in the kitchen, humming as she made her special blueberry pancakes for their Saturday breakfast. Everything seemed so normal, so perfect. This was the life he had always wanted but never thought he'd have. The doorbell rang, pulling Tom from his thoughts. "Can you get that?" Lisa called from the kitchen. "My hands are covered in batter." Tom walked to the front door, expecting the mail carrier with a package, probably another baby gift from Lisa's mother, who had been sending something nearly every week since they announced the pregnancy. Instead, he found a thin man in a wrinkled suit standing on their porch, holding a manila envelope. "Thomas Wilson?" the man asked, his voice gravelly from what sounded like years of cigarettes. Tom nodded, confused. Nobody called him Thomas except on official documents. "This is for you," the man said, handing over the envelope. "I've been trying to find you for weeks." Before Tom could ask any questions, the man turned and walked briskly to a car parked at the curb. Within seconds, he was driving away. Tom closed the door, staring at the unmarked envelope in his hands. Something about it made his stomach tighten. He glanced toward the kitchen where Lisa was still humming, oblivious. In the small half-bathroom off the hallway, Tom locked the door and tore open the envelope. Inside was a single sheet of paper and a faded photograph. The letter was brief, written in an unsteady hand. "Thomas, my name is Roy Wilson. I'm your father. I know you don't remember me. I left when you were too young. I'm at Memorial Hospital in Riverdale. The doctors say I don't have much time left. There are things you need to know before I go. Things about our family. Come alone. Please." At the bottom was a phone number. Tom stared at the letter, reading it 3 times before the words actually sank in. His father. The man who had abandoned him and his mother when Tom was just 2 years old. The man his mother refused to talk about, taking whatever secrets she knew to her grave 5 years ago. The photograph showed a much younger version of the father Tom barely remembered holding. A baby that must have been Tom. But there was something else in the picture, something that made Tom's blood run cold. In the background, partially visible, was what looked like another baby carrier. A sharp knock on the bathroom door made Tom jump. "Breakfast is ready," Lisa called. "Everything okay in there?" Tom quickly folded the letter and photo, stuffing them into his pocket. "Yeah, fine. Just washing my hands." He splashed water on his face, trying to compose himself before facing his wife. This couldn't be happening. Not now, with the baby coming any day. Not when everything in his life was finally settled and happy. Over breakfast, Lisa chatted about the baby shower planned for the following weekend, about the hospital tour they were scheduled to take, about names they still hadn't decided on. Tom nodded and smiled at all the right places, but his mind was elsewhere, on a hospital bed in Riverdale, a town nearly 5 hours away. "Earth to Tom," Lisa said, waving her hand in front of his face. "Where'd you go?" "I asked if you think we should pack the hospital bag this weekend, just in case." "Oh yeah, good idea," Tom said, forcing himself back to the present. Lisa tilted her head, studying him. "Are you sure you're okay? You've been distracted all morning." Tom reached across the table and took her hand. "Just nervous about becoming a dad, I guess." Lisa squeezed his hand. "You're going to be an amazing father. Nothing like yours." Tom had told Lisa the basics, that his father had walked out when he was little, that he had no memories of the man. But he'd never shared how deeply that abandonment had affected him, how he'd spent his childhood wondering what he'd done wrong, what flaw in him had made his father leave. "I hope so," Tom said quietly. Later that day, when Lisa was napping, Tom took out the letter again and stared at the phone number. Before he could talk himself out of it, he dialed. A nurse answered, confirming that yes, Roy Wilson was a patient there. No, he couldn't come to the phone right now. Yes, she could give him a message when he woke up. Tell him. Tom hesitated. Tell him I got his letter. That night, Tom barely slept. He kept seeing the photograph, the hint of another baby carrier in the background. What did it mean? What family secrets could be so important that his dying father would reach out after all these years? The next morning, Tom's phone rang with an unfamiliar number. He stepped outside to take the call away from Lisa's curious ears. "Hello? Thomas?" The voice was weak, raspy. "It's your father." Tom's grip tightened on the phone. 1,000 angry questions rose to his lips, but all he said was, "I got your letter." "Thank you for calling back," Roy said. "I wasn't sure you would. What do you want?" Tom asked, trying to keep his voice steady. I need to see you in person. There are things I need to tell you, things you need to know before. A fit of coughing interrupted him. I can't just drop everything and drive to Riverdale, Tom said, though part of him wanted to do exactly that, to finally get answers to questions that had haunted him his whole life. My wife is about to have a baby. There was a long pause on the other end. You're going to be a father? Yes, Tom said. Any day now, another pause. Then it's even more important that you come. It's about your child, too. A chill ran through Tom. What are you talking about? I can't explain over the phone, Roy said, his voice growing weaker. The doctors say I have maybe a week left. Please, Thomas. I know I have no right to ask anything of you, but this is important. After the call ended, Tom stood in their backyard staring at nothing. What could possibly be so important that it couldn't be said over the phone, and what did it have to do with his unborn child? Over the next week, Tom's behavior grew increasingly erratic. He checked his phone constantly, disappeared for hours, claiming he needed to clear his head, and barely slept. Lisa noticed, of course. How could she not? Talk to me, she pleaded one night as they lay in bed, her hand resting on her belly where their baby kicked steadily. Whatever's going on, we can handle it together, Tom almost told her then. Almost shared the letter, the photo, the calls that had been coming more frequently as his father's condition worsened. But something held him back. Maybe it was shame over the father who had abandoned him, or fear of what secrets might be revealed. Or maybe it was a deeper fear, that whatever his father had to tell him might somehow change everything, might cast a shadow over the perfect life he and Lisa had built. It's nothing, he lied, just work stress. At Lisa's baby shower that weekend, Tom stood apart from the crowd watching as she opened gifts and laughed with friends. Her best friend Jenny approached him, a concerned look on her face. What's going on with you? Jenny asked bluntly. She and Tom had always had a straightforward relationship. Lisa's worried sick, but she won't say anything because she doesn't want to stress you out before the baby comes. Tom sighed. It's complicated, Jenny. Uncomplicated, she said, crossing her arms. Because whatever it is, it's affecting Lisa, and that affects the baby. Guilt washed over Tom. I know. I'll figure it out. But as the days passed, Tom didn't figure it out. The calls from the hospital became more urgent. His father was declining rapidly. The doctors didn't think he would make it through the week. On the night before Tom left Lisa on that rainy road, he received one final call. It wasn't his father this time, but a doctor. Mr. Wilson, I'm Dr. Chen, your father's physician. He's asked me to call you. His condition has deteriorated significantly. If you want to see him before he passes, I suggest you come quickly. Did he tell you what he wants to talk to me about? Tom asked, desperate for any clue. There was a pause on the other end. He mentioned something about a twin and a genetic condition. That's all I know, but he's very adamant about seeing you. A twin, the second baby carrier in the photo. Tom's head spun with the implications. Mr. Wilson, are you still there? Yes, Tom said. Tell him I'm coming. But how could he leave now with Lisa due any day? How could he explain a dying father he'd never mentioned? Possible family secrets, a mysterious twin. It would sound crazy. And what if it was nothing? Just the delusions of a dying man trying to ease his conscience. As Tom hung up the phone, he made a decision. He wouldn't tell Lisa yet. He would wait until after the baby was born, then find a way to visit his father and get the answers he needed. The timing wasn't ideal, but it would work out. Then came the dinner with friends, the storm, and Lisa's water breaking 2 weeks early. And suddenly Tom faced an impossible choice. Be with his wife as she gave birth to their child, or reach his father before it was too late, before secrets that might affect his child's future died with him. In that moment on the rainy road, looking at Lisa's confused, frightened face, Tom made the hardest decision of his life. He chose to leave believing he could get to his father and back before the baby arrived. Believing the nearby diner would provide Lisa with immediate help. Believing he was doing what was necessary to protect his family, even if it meant becoming what he had always hated, a father who walked away when his child needed him most. The headlights cut through the rain, illuminating Lisa as she huddled against the car, one hand clutching her belly as another contraction tore through her. The pain was getting worse, coming faster. Through the haze of disbelief and fear, she registered the car slowing, stopping beside her. Oh my God! A woman's voice called out. "Are you okay?" Lisa looked up to see a middle-aged woman rushing toward her, rain soaking her clothes within seconds. The stranger's face registered shock as she took in Lisa's very pregnant state. "My husband," Lisa managed between breaths. "He left me here. I'm having our baby." The woman's eyes widened in disbelief. "He what? Never mind that now. I'm Diane. Let's get you in my car." With Diane's help, Lisa struggled to her feet, another contraction making her double over and cry out. "They're coming too fast," Lisa gasped. "Something's wrong." Diane helped Lisa to her car, easing her into the passenger seat. "I'm calling 911 right now," she said, pulling out her phone with shaking hands. "Just hold on." As Diane spoke urgently to the dispatcher, Lisa closed her eyes, trying to make sense of what had just happened. Tom was gone. He had driven away and left her here in labor in the rain. The man she had built a life with, the man who had cried when they saw their baby's heartbeat on the ultrasound, had abandoned her when she needed him most. None of it made sense. "An ambulance is coming," Diane said, reaching over to squeeze Lisa's hand. "They said to stay put. Do you want to tell me what happened?" Between contractions, Lisa shared the bare minimum. They were driving home, her water broke, and Tom had pulled over only to tell her he had to leave. "Did you fight? Had he been drinking?" Diane asked, clearly struggling to understand. Lisa shook her head. "No, nothing like that. He said there were things I didn't know that he'd explain later. He gave me his phone and just left." The reality of it hit her again, bringing fresh tears. "Who does that?" Diane's face hardened. "No one decent, that's for sure." The wail of sirens cut through the sound of rain on the car roof. Red and blue lights flashed as an ambulance pulled up behind them. Two paramedics approached quickly, a young man and an older woman. The female paramedic introduced herself as Kathy as she assessed Lisa's condition. "How far apart are your contractions?" she asked, helping Lisa onto the stretcher. "Maybe 3 minutes," Lisa said, gripping the sides as another wave of pain hit her. "It's too early. The baby's not due for 2 more weeks." "Babies have their own schedules," Kathy said with a reassuring smile. "Let's get you to the hospital." As they loaded her into the ambulance, Lisa turned to Diane. "Thank you," she said. "I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't come along." Diane squeezed her hand. "I'm going to follow you to the hospital, okay? No one should be alone at a time like this." In the ambulance, Kathy checked Lisa's vitals while her partner radioed ahead to the hospital. "Your blood pressure's a bit high," Kathy noted with a frown. "That's not unusual in labor, but with the stress you've been under." She trailed off, focusing on her work. "Is my baby going to be okay?" Lisa asked, fear gripping her heart. "We're going to take good care of both of you," Kathy assured her. "Can I call someone for you? Family?" Lisa nodded, giving them Jenny's number. As Kathy made the call, Lisa heard her explaining the situation in hushed tones. "Your sister's on her way," Kathy said afterward. "She said she'll meet us at the hospital." The rest of the ambulance ride passed in a blur of pain and fear. Lisa kept expecting to wake up from this nightmare, to find herself safe at home with Tom beside her, both of them excitedly timing contractions and grabbing the hospital bag they had packed together. Instead, she was wheeled into the emergency room alone, surrounded by strangers, her husband gone to who knows where for who knows what reason. The hospital staff moved quickly, transferring her to the maternity ward where a doctor examined her. "You're at 6 centimeters, the doctor said. "This baby is definitely coming tonight. I understand your husband isn't here?" Lisa shook her head, not trusting herself to speak. The doctor's expression softened. "Well, you're not alone. We're all here for you." A nurse helped Lisa into a hospital gown and settled her into the labor room. "Your sister's here," she said. "Shall I send her in?" Moments later, Jenny burst into the room, her face a mix of worry and fury. "What happened?" she demanded, rushing to Lisa's side. "Where's Tom? The nurse said something about him leaving you on the side of the road. That can't be right." Lisa grabbed her sister's hand as another contraction hit. When it passed, she told Jenny everything, the strange phone calls Tom had been taking, his distracted behavior over the past weeks, and finally, his inexplicable decision to drive away and leave her in labor. Jenny's face darkened with each word. "I'm going to kill him," she said, her voice deadly calm. "When I find him, I'm going to kill him with my bare hands." "I don't understand," Lisa said, tears streaming down her face. "This isn't like him. Something must be terribly wrong." "The only thing wrong is that you married a monster," Jenny said, squeezing Lisa's hand. "But let's focus on you and the baby right now. Everything else can wait." As the night wore on, word spread through the small hospital. The story of the man who abandoned his laboring wife on a rainy road traveled from nurse to nurse, from shift to shift. By morning, everyone knew. Diane, the woman who had found Lisa, had posted about the incident on the local community page. Careful not to use names, but describing the situation in enough detail that anyone who knew Tom and Lisa could figure it out. The post exploded with comments, most expressing outrage and offers of help for the abandoned mother-to-be. By mid-morning, Lisa's labor room was filled with flowers, stuffed animals, and cards from friends and even strangers. The nurses, moved by her situation, took special care of her, checking in more frequently, offering words of encouragement. "You're doing great," one nurse said as she checked Lisa's progress. 8 centimeters now, not much longer." Jenny never left her side, holding her hand through each contraction, wiping her forehead with a cool cloth, feeding her ice chips when her mouth grew dry. "Have you tried calling him?" Jenny asked during a rare quiet moment between contractions. Lisa nodded weakly. "His phone goes straight to voicemail. I left messages." Jenny's jaw tightened. "When this is over, I'm going to file a missing person report. And if he's not missing, I'm going to make sure he's sorry." Around noon, Lisa's contractions intensified. The doctor checked her again and announced it was time to push. The next hour was the hardest of Lisa's life. Pain unlike anything she had ever experienced. Exhaustion pulling at her, and through it all the gaping absence of the man who should have been there. The man who had helped create this new life but wasn't there to witness its arrival. "One more big push," the doctor encouraged. "Your baby's almost here." With Jenny supporting her, Lisa gathered her remaining strength and pushed with everything she had. A cry filled the room, strong, indignant, alive. "It's a girl," the doctor announced, placing the tiny wriggling body on Lisa's chest. Through her tears, Lisa looked down at her daughter's face, red and scrunched and perfect. 10 fingers, 10 toes, a tuft of dark hair like Tom's. She was beautiful. "Hello, little one," Lisa whispered, her heart expanding with a love so fierce it took her breath away. "I'm your mom." Jenny leaned in, tears streaming down her face. "She's perfect, Lisa. Absolutely perfect." As the nurses cleaned and measured the baby, Jenny stepped out to make some calls. Lisa could hear her in the hallway, her voice breaking as she shared the news with friends and family. "A healthy baby girl, 6 pounds, 8 ounces. Lisa's doing well. No, he's still not here. I know, it's unbelievable." By evening, Lisa's hospital room had become a command center of sorts. Friends arrived with home-cooked meals, baby clothes, and offers to help when she went home. Jenny had moved a cot into the room, declaring she would stay as long as Lisa needed. The community had rallied around mother and child, united in their support and in their condemnation of the man who had walked away. But as Lisa held her newborn daughter, watching her sleep with tiny fists curled beside her face, she couldn't bring herself to hate Tom. Despite everything, she still loved him. And beneath her hurt and anger, a question nagged at her. What could possibly have been important enough to make him leave? What secret was so powerful it could tear apart a man who had always been steady, loyal, and kind? As night fell again, Lisa's phone rang. Unknown number. Heart pounding, she answered. "Lisa?" Tom's voice thick with emotion. "Is the baby?" "She's here," Lisa said, her voice steady despite the storm of feelings inside her. "She's healthy. She's beautiful. And you missed it all?" There was a long silence on the other end. Then Tom spoke, his voice breaking. "I need to explain. What I found out, it changes everything. I'm coming back tomorrow. Will you let me see her? Let me explain." Lisa looked down at their sleeping daughter, so innocent, so unaware of the drama surrounding her arrival. "I don't know, Tom," she said honestly. I don't know if I can ever forgive you for this. I understand, he said quietly. But please just hear me out. For her sake, if not for mine. After they hung up, Lisa lay awake for hours, watching her daughter breathe, wondering what tomorrow would bring. Whatever explanation Tom had, it would have to be extraordinary to justify what he had done. Nothing less than a matter of life and death could possibly be enough. The windshield wipers fought against the relentless rain as Tom drove through the night. His knuckles were white on the steering wheel, his mind a battlefield of guilt and determination. Every mile that took him further from Lisa felt like a betrayal. Yet every mile closer to Riverdale felt like a step toward answers he had sought his entire life. What have I done? He whispered to the empty car. The image of Lisa's face, confused, hurt, frightened, was burned into his memory. He had called 911, made sure help was coming, but would that be enough? Would she and the baby be okay? Would she ever forgive him? Tom's phone rang through the car speakers. The hospital in Riverdale, Mr. Wilson. This is Nurse Patel from Memorial. Your father's asking for you. His condition is deteriorating rapidly. I'm on my way, Tom said, his voice hoarse. About 3 hours out. Tell him to hold on. I'll tell him, but... The nurse paused. You should hurry. Tom pressed down on the accelerator. The rain was finally letting up, allowing him to increase his speed. As he drove, his mind drifted back to his childhood, to the vague, ghost-like memories of a man who would lift him high in the air, who would laugh with his whole body. Those memories had sustained him through years of wondering why his father had left, why he hadn't been enough to make him stay. His mother had never spoken ill of Roy Wilson, but she had never explained his absence either. Some people aren't meant to be parents, was all she would say. When Tom asked if his father had ever tried to contact them, his mother would get a strange, distant look on her face and change the subject. Now, rushing toward the man who had shaped his life through absence, Tom wondered what other secrets his mother had kept. What was so important that his dying father needed to tell him in person? What did it have to do with the baby? The hospital loomed ahead, its windows glowing in the pre-dawn darkness. Tom parked haphazardly and ran inside, his clothes still damp from the earlier downpour. At the reception desk, he gave his father's name, his heart pounding. Room 317, the receptionist said after checking her computer. But sir, she called after him as he headed for the elevators. Visiting hours don't start until 8. I'm his son, Tom said without stopping. They called me. He's dying. The elevators seemed to take forever. Tom's phone buzzed in his pocket. Another missed call from Jenny, Lisa's sister. She had been calling non-stop for the past hour. Tom couldn't face her yet, couldn't explain what even he didn't fully understand. Room 317 was at the end of a quiet hallway. Tom paused outside the door, suddenly afraid of what waited on the other side. Taking a deep breath, he pushed the door open. The room was dimly lit, with beeping monitors casting a bluish glow over the bed where a frail figure lay. It took Tom a moment to reconcile this skeletal man with the father in his memories. Dad? He said softly, stepping closer. Roy Wilson's eyes fluttered open. They were the same deep brown as Tom's, as the eyes that would soon look up at Lisa from their newborn's face. Thomas, Roy whispered, his voice so weak Tom had to lean in to hear him. You came. I came, Tom confirmed, pulling a chair to the bedside. Up close, his father looked even worse, skin yellowed and stretched tight over bones, breath rattling in his chest. Your wife, Roy began. Is in labor, Tom said, unable to keep the edge from his voice. I left her to be here. This better be worth it. Regret flashed across Roy's face. I'm sorry. I wouldn't have asked if it wasn't important. He gestured weakly to a pitcher of water on the bedside table. Could you? Tom poured a small cup and helped his father take a sip. The intimacy of the act, caring for the man who had abandoned him, felt surreal. I don't have much time, Roy said after catching his breath, so I need to tell you everything now. He reached for Tom's hand, his grip surprisingly strong for someone so frail. You have a brother, a twin brother. Though Tom had suspected as much from the photo, hearing it confirmed still sent a shock through him. A twin? Where is he? Why were we separated? Roy closed his eyes briefly. His name is David. He lives in Seattle now. Your mother and I. We separated you when you were babies, and why? Tom demanded, anger rising in his chest. What kind of parents split up their children? We had no choice, Roy said, a tear sliding down his hollow cheek. Your mother and I, we both carried a gene. Separately harmless, together. He paused, coughing. Together they cause Marston's disease. Tom frowned. I've never heard of it. It's rare, very rare. It affects the heart, causes it to develop abnormally. We didn't know we both carried the gene until after you boys were born and David started showing symptoms. Roy's breathing grew more labored. The doctors told us both of you had it, but David's case was more severe. He needed specialized care, experimental treatments. We couldn't afford to treat both of you. Tom sat back, stunned. So you split us up. You took David and Mom took me. Roy nodded weakly. Your mother's sister lived near a hospital with one of the best pediatric cardiac units in the country. We decided David would go with me to be near that hospital. You would stay with your mother. We thought once David was better we could be a family again. But that never happened, Tom said. The bitterness of a lifetime without a father, without a brother, welling up inside him. David's condition was worse than we thought. The treatments took years. By then your mother had met someone new. She thought it would be too confusing for you to suddenly have a father and a brother you didn't remember. Roy's voice broke. I disagreed. We fought. Eventually I stopped trying. Tom stood up, pacing the small room as he processed this revelation. So my mother kept me from my brother? From you? We both made mistakes, Roy said. Terrible mistakes. But that's not why I asked you to come. He gestured Tom closer. The gene for Marston's disease, it's hereditary. If both parents carry it, there's a 25% chance their child will develop the condition. Your wife needs to be tested. Your baby needs to be tested. Tom felt the blood drain from his face. My baby could have the same condition? Roy nodded. David's son was born with it 5 years ago. That's how we found out the gene runs so strongly in our family. If caught early, before birth, or just after, there are treatments now, treatments that weren't available for you and David. Is David's son okay? Tom asked, his mind racing with implications. Yes, because they caught it early. The treatments are expensive, but they work. Roy reached for a folder on his bedside table, his hand shaking with the effort. This has everything. David's contact information, information about the disease, the specialists you need to see. Tom took the folder, his whole body numb. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Why wait until now? Roy's face crumpled. Pride, shame. I told myself you were better off without me. Then I got sick and the doctor said there wasn't much time left. I had to make sure you knew for your child's sake. A nurse entered the room, checking Roy's vitals with a concerned expression. Mr. Wilson, you need to rest. Roy waved her away. There's no time for rest. To Tom, he said, there's one more thing. Your brother, he's here. Tom's head snapped up. Here in the hospital? He arrived yesterday. He's been taking care of me these past few months. Roy's eyes moved to the door. He went to get coffee. He should be back soon. As if on cue, the door opened and a man walked in holding 2 coffee cups. He stopped short when he saw Tom. It was like looking in a mirror. The same height, the same build, the same deep brown eyes. The only difference was a scar that ran along the other man's chest, visible at the neck of his shirt, a reminder of the surgeries that had separated their fates. David, Roy said weakly. This is your brother, Thomas. The 2 men stared at each other, 35 years of separation hanging in the air between them. How long have you known about me? Tom asked finally. All my life, David answered. Dad made sure I knew I had a brother somewhere. Tom turned to his father, fresh anger rising. So he got to know about me, but I knew nothing about him? That was your mother's choice, Roy said, his voice fading. She thought it would be easier for you that way. A machine began beeping rapidly. The nurse rushed back in, checking monitors. His blood pressure is dropping. I need to call the doctor. As medical staff swarmed into the room, Tom and David were pushed to the sidelines, united in watching their father slip away. He held on for you, David said quietly as the doctors worked. He was determined to see you, to warn you about the disease. Tom's phone buzzed again. Jenny, with everything he had just learned, he knew he needed to get back to Lisa and their baby immediately. Their daughter needed to be tested. If she had the condition, early treatment was critical. I have to go, Tom said, gripping the folder of medical information. My wife just had our baby. I need to get back to them. David looked surprised. You left your wife during labor to come here? I didn't know she was in labor when I left, Tom said, the guilt washing over him again. But yes, I left her. To come here. To find out about this. He held up the folder. And now I've got to get back and hope she'll forgive me. A doctor emerged from the cluster around the bed, his face somber. I'm sorry. He's gone. Tom felt a strange hollowness. The father he had just found was gone again, this time forever. But he had left behind a brother and potentially life-saving information for his newborn daughter. I need to go, Tom repeated, turning to David. But I want to talk more. I want to know you. David nodded, tears streaming down his face. Go to your family. Call me when you can. As Tom rushed back to his car, the first light of dawn was breaking over the horizon. He had lost a father but found a brother. He had answers to questions that had haunted him his entire life. Most importantly, he had information that might save his daughter's life. Now he just had to hope Lisa would give him the chance to explain. Tom drove back much faster than he should have. The folder of medical information on the passenger seat beside him. His father was gone. His newfound brother was mourning alone. But Tom couldn't stay, not when his wife and newborn daughter needed him. He tried calling Lisa again, but the call went to voicemail. Jenny had stopped calling, which worried him more than her angry messages had. What if something had gone wrong with the birth? What if Lisa or the baby was in danger? The folder seemed to stare at him from the seat. Marston's disease, a genetic heart condition that could be fatal if not caught early. A condition that had shaped his entire family history without him knowing it. A condition his daughter might have inherited. The small town came into view as afternoon sunlight broke through the clouds. Tom hadn't slept in nearly 2 days, but adrenaline kept him alert. He headed straight for the county hospital, rehearsing what he would say to Lisa, knowing no explanation could fully justify what he'd done. As he pulled into the hospital parking lot, he noticed several familiar cars, friends from town, Lisa's co-workers. Word had clearly spread. Tom grabbed the folder and hurried inside. At the maternity ward reception desk, he gave Lisa's name. The nurse looked up, recognition dawning on her face. You're the husband, she said, her tone noticeably cool. Tom nodded, bracing himself for the judgment he deserved. Is she okay? Is our baby okay? They're both healthy, the nurse said. Room 214. She didn't offer a smile. As Tom walked down the hallway, he could feel eyes on him. Nurses, visitors, all staring with barely concealed disapproval. News traveled fast in a small town, and the story of a man abandoning his laboring wife on a rainy road was bound to cause outrage. Outside room 214, he paused. Through the partially open door, he could hear Lisa's voice, soft and tired, talking to someone. Taking a deep breath, Tom knocked gently and pushed the door open. The room fell silent. Lisa was in bed, holding a tiny bundle wrapped in a pink blanket. Jenny sat beside her, along with Diane, the woman who had found Lisa on the road. Their expressions shifted from surprise to anger as they recognized him. Jenny stood up, her face flushed with fury. You have some nerve showing up here. Jenny, Lisa said quietly. It's okay. It's not okay, Jenny protested. He left you on the side of the road, in labor, in the rain. Tom couldn't argue with her assessment. You're right, he said, his voice breaking. What I did was unforgivable. Then why are you here? Diane asked, crossing her arms. Tom looked directly at Lisa, seeing the hurt and exhaustion in her eyes. Because I need to explain. Because what I found out affects our daughter. Lisa's arms tightened protectively around the baby. What are you talking about? Tom held up the folder. This is why I left. I know it doesn't excuse what I did, but please just hear me out. Jenny and Diane exchanged glances. We'll give you some privacy, Diane said reluctantly, but we'll be right outside. As they left, Tom approached the bed slowly, afraid to come too close, afraid Lisa would tell him to leave, and knowing he would deserve it. Can I see her? He asked softly. Lisa hesitated, then turned the bundle slightly so he could see the tiny face nestled inside. Tom's heart squeezed in his chest. She was perfect, a tuft of dark hair, rosy cheeks, his mother's nose. What's her name? He asked. I haven't decided yet, Lisa said. I was waiting. She didn't need to say what she had been waiting for. Tom pulled the chair closer to the bed, still keeping a respectful distance. Lisa, I know what I did was wrong. I will regret it for the rest of my life. But I need you to know why I left. Slowly, carefully, he told her everything. The letter from his father, the mysterious phone calls, the revelation about his twin brother, and finally, The genetic heart condition that had torn his family apart and might now threaten their daughter. A twin brother, Lisa repeated in disbelief. All this time and you never knew? Tom shook his head. My mother never told me. I think she was trying to protect me from the pain of knowing I had a brother I couldn't see. And this disease? Marston's disease. Our baby might have it. There's a chance, Tom said, opening the folder to show her the medical information. If we both carry the gene, there's a 25% chance. David's son has it, but they caught it early because they knew to look for it. He's doing well with treatment. Lisa stared at the papers, her expression shifting from anger to concern. Is it fatal? It can be if it's not treated, Tom said honestly. But there are treatments now that weren't available when David and I were born. That's why my father reached out after all these years. He wanted to make sure our baby would be tested right away. Lisa was quiet for a long moment, absorbing everything. So you left me on the road to rush to your dying father who abandoned you as a child, to learn about a twin brother you never knew existed, and a genetic disease our daughter might have? Put like that, it sounded unbelievable. Yes, Tom said simply. I know how it sounds. I know what I did was unforgivable. But I thought I was doing the right thing for our daughter. You could have told me, Lisa said, tears filling her eyes. We could have figured it out together. You're right, Tom admitted. I should have told you everything from the start. I was afraid. Afraid of dragging up a painful past, afraid of worrying you during your pregnancy. But that's no excuse. I made the wrong choice, and I'll have to live with that. He moved to stand. I'll go now if you want me to. But please, for our daughter's sake, let the doctors test her for the condition. I can stay away if that's what you need, but please don't let my mistake keep her from getting the care she might need. Lisa looked down at their sleeping daughter, then back at Tom. Show me the information again. Tom handed her the folder, watching as she read through the medical documents, her face growing more serious with each page. We need to have her tested, she finally said. Today. Tom nodded, relief washing over him that at least this part of his mission had been accomplished. I'll go find a doctor. Wait, Lisa said as he turned to leave. I'm still angry with you. I don't know if I can forgive what you did, but... She took a deep breath. I understand why you did it. Not how you did it, but why. It was more than Tom had dared to hope for. The tests were arranged immediately. A pediatric cardiologist was called in. Blood samples were taken and an echocardiogram was performed on their tiny daughter. Tom and Lisa waited anxiously for the results, the gulf between them still wide but bridged by their shared concern for their child. When the cardiologist returned, his face was serious. We've detected some early signs consistent with Marston's disease, he said. It's good that we're catching this now. The earlier we start treatment, the better the outcome. Lisa's hand found Tom's, gripping it tightly. In that moment, despite everything, they were united. The news spread through the small town just as quickly as the initial story had. Tom's explanation, the discovery of his twin brother and the diagnosis of the baby's heart condition transformed public opinion. The man who had been vilified as a heartless deserter was now viewed with a complex mixture of sympathy and lingering disapproval. David arrived 3 days later, bringing more detailed medical information about his son's treatment. The physical resemblance between the twins caused a stir in the hospital and town. People who had known Tom for years did double takes, struggled to tell the brothers apart. I'm sorry we didn't meet under better circumstances, David told Lisa as he held his niece for the first time. But I'm glad Tom found out in time. Early detection makes all the difference with this condition. Lisa watched the identical brothers together, still processing the strangeness of it all. Did your father ever explain why he never tried to contact Tom again? Why he let him grow up without knowing any of this? David's expression grew sad. He tried in the beginning. He sent letters called, "For Tom's mother." She thought it would be too confusing, too painful. Eventually, he respected her wishes. A week later, they brought their daughter home. The treatment plan was established, specialists were arranged, and their new life as parents of a child with a rare heart condition began. It wasn't what they had expected, but they were prepared. Thanks to the information Tom had risked everything to obtain, they named her Hope. It felt right for a child whose diagnosis might have been missed if not for a series of painful but necessary revelations. Tom slept on the couch those first weeks home. The breach of trust between him and Lisa wasn't easily repaired. But slowly, as they navigated their daughter's care together, as they video called with David and his family to compare notes on treatments and specialists, they began to find their way back to each other. "I'm not saying I forgive you completely," Lisa told Tom one night as they sat watching Hope sleep in her bassinet, "but I understand now that you were faced with an impossible choice. And in the end, you made the choice that saved our daughter's life." Tom took her hand cautiously, gratefully. "I never meant to hurt you. I thought I could make it back before she was born. I thought I was doing the right thing." "Sometimes there is no right thing," Lisa said softly. "Just choices and consequences." 6 months later, Hope's condition was responding well to treatment. Tom and Lisa had begun couples counseling to rebuild what had been broken. David and his family had become regular visitors, the brothers making up for lost time. The story of the man who left his pregnant wife in labor on the road to travel had become something else entirely. A story about family secrets, impossible choices, and a father's desperate journey to save his child's life. Not an excuse, but an explanation that had, in the end, shocked everyone with its truth.